Marc Clarke, that's classic. I love it.
Is that delicious beverage?
Duh.
The show, oh my goodness, is it Monday already, Bootsy?
Yes, it is. And let the record reflect that we're working on a holiday. So I don't know if the Marc Clarke Media platform provides holiday pay. If so, I would like to submit my holiday pay slip, Lisa.
Yes, please do. And don't forget to submit, because you will not get paid if it's not submitted in proper time by noon today. Shout out, before we get started, shout out to Mrs. Sherburne.
Okay.
Marita Sherburne. I didn't even know her first name. Miss Sherburne, because Miss Sherburne was the principal at my baby's school in grade school.
Oh, wow.
And you know how it is with teachers. You never know their first name. You just know Miss Sherburne, Mrs. Sherburne.
How about it?
And she was the principal, the coolest principal ever. And I got to say, probably their best school experience was in grade school. Really? I'm gonna leave it at that. And she provided the leadership
for this great educational experience. I get it.
Exactly. And so shout out to Marita. Now we grown. I can say, I saw Marita at the store. Hi, Marita. But now coming up, we're coming fresh off of Father's Day. And so we had to have the green-eyed bandit. We had to have a man he's made women swoon for years, going all the way back to Jackson State. And they didn't think, the question becomes, was he using his good looks for good or for evil? Well, he got married up, and thank goodness, because we don't even want to know what was going on at Jackson State when he was just a wild single man with those good looks and great name, one of the coldest names ever in broadcasting.
What an intro that you're giving this man, though.
One of the coldest names in broadcasting. I'm just glad he's my friend. Ladies and gentlemen, Wisdom Martin joins us. Yes, Wisdom Martin.
What's up, people? Marc Clarke, Bootsy, what's up? Marc, I don't know who told you those stories, but they're absolutely not true. Choir boy is what they would call me back in the day.
And also, shout out to, we're all fathers today. Shout out to all the fathers. As you can see, Bootsy, Wisdom is in his estate. You know how you go over people's house. It's painful to go, because then Allison, for the next couple of days, talks about what we about to do, what we're gonna do, what we don't have. But Wisdom has staked his piece of land. You know what I'm saying? He out there. Wisdom out there where he can hit a drive 500 yards and not even worry about where the damn ball is. I don't care. You know, a gopher or some animal is going to take it away. So
yeah, you're right about that. There's definitely
every
some
morning Bootsy wakes up. Wisdom wakes up Bootsy butt naked, walking out in his land just because he can. And the neighbors,
basketball court and all, Mark. Basketball court and all.
Basketball court. And so for those who don't know Wisdom Martin, well, many know Wisdom as a news anchor at Fox for over blank years. So Wisdom, for those who don't know the background, give us a little background of who Wisdom Martin is. And again, what an amazing name.
Yeah, well, I have to thank my dad for the name because I was the firstborn. His dad gave him the name. He was the firstborn. So the name came out of the Bible from back in the day because, Southern people in the Bible. So that's where the name came from.
Okay,
my son's,
Wisdom. Wisdom, before I go, how many people think you made that name up?
All of them. Every time I meet somebody, they say, that's for TV, right? Is that your real name? Because, yeah, they just think my whole time on television over 30 years now, people have thought that I just made that up for TV, like it's a stage name. So, yeah, but it's my real government name, my tax ID name. That's what they taxed me under. First name, yeah. And it was cool in college with the lady. But we won't talk about that. We won't talk about that.
And Wisdom. And meanwhile, me and Bootsy have made up fake ass names that don't match, that do not match the prominence of Wisdom Martin. But go ahead.
Yeah, high expectations. That's what my parents had. High expectations. So real quick, I'm from Mississippi, from Kosciusko, Kosciusko, Mississippi, home of Oprah Winfrey. That's where she was born. And just like Oprah, I got out as well.
Wisdom. Let me ask you this, Wisdom. I don't think we had this we didn't have this Mississippi conversation.
Yeah.
But so my father family is from West Point, Mississippi.
Yeah.
Is that in the ballpark?
We're in Central. West Point, I believe, is north, about a couple of hours north of where I'm from. I'm pretty much in the middle of nowhere. I'm close to Jackson, 60 miles from Jackson, but where I'm from is in the middle of nowhere. So that's how we got all our land and stuff back in the old days, because when we were the only ones out there. That's it. We were the only ones out there.
Keep the tradition going with your land, but go ahead.
But you know what? It's a little different in the north now. You get land down there for one price, and then when you move north, you get a smaller section of the land for quadruple the price.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on, Wisdom. Are you saying this?
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
Exactly. And the
yesterday's price is not today's price.
So you're right. So I went to Jackson State University in Jackson, Mississippi, because everybody in my family went to Jackson State, so it wasn't really an option. But I loved it. Broadcast journalism. Got a job when I was a sophomore in college at the ABC station, working behind the scenes. Managed to work my way up into the sports department, and then in front of the camera as a sports reporter and a news reporter, and then moved all around the country. In fact, when I was in Jackson, my first assignment on television was covering Steve McNair, the quarterback at Alcorn State back then, because he was up and coming. He wasn't a star at the time. He was just it was Alcorn State. They were an hour away from Jackson, so it was no big deal. So they said, "Okay, rookie, here's your assignment. Take this camera and you go down in the middle of nowhere, Alcorn, and cover Alcorn State." And then when he blew up, you know what happened once he blew up and started getting all that buzz.
They pushed
now you go cover something else. You go cover Mississippi College, and now we're gonna go cover Steve McNair because he could possibly get the Heisman Trophy, finish third in the Heisman. So that's where I started. And then I moved all over the country doing news and sports, Fresno, California. Where else did I go? Raleigh, North Carolina. I was at CNN in Atlanta for a little while, Nashville, Tennessee, and then here in Washington, D.C. for going on 20 years. 20 years in Washington, D.C. So, yeah, that's the background. News reporter and then anchor. Yeah.
Wisdom Martin. And Wisdom, before we hop into your book and hop into the real conversation, guys, we're all dads, and we're coming off of Daddy's Day, Father's Day. Wisdom, I had the blessing, and it's interesting, like, when you get to be a certain age, I think all of us have lost. Have you lost both your parents, Wisdom?
No, just my father. My father about 4 years ago. My mom's still alive. She just left yesterday, as a matter of fact.
I love it.
Yeah.
And so, Wisdom, I had the blessing of being at your crib with your family, sitting in the presence. And again, that the power of that, you know, like knowing where people come from, being, you know, even just when you think about the you know, when you're in the presence of people, when you're in somebody's house and you're sharing that moment, I think that's one thing I loved about the South, being from the Midwest. When my first gigs were in the South, that part about life is so important. I think people from the South understand the importance of family, the importance of food and connection. You know, and so Wisdom, I will always remember that wonderful evening I spent. It might have been a couple times I met your parents actually, but just being in the presence was just amazing, you know. And then as we now our kids are growing, Bootsy, you know, these moments that happen. Bootsy, you just sent me the picture. I didn't have. I wish I had posted it. But your son just had an amazing weekend. He was MVP of a tournament, correct?
Yeah, he was the MVP of a baseball tournament. But as you know, Mark, as some people do know, I adopted one of my kids from my program at Deanwood. And she graduated Saturday. And as I'll be talking to you, Mark, about, you know, I don't have a daughter, but now I have a daughter. That was a whole different set of emotions too. So this Father's Day was different as well, because, you know, when you're in these parental spaces and, you know, you're responsible. But I'm learning now it's different from a female and a male. But this weekend was the best Father's Day I've ever had, though.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah, man. And then Wisdom, you have amazing children. You have your daughter has carried on the baller tradition. The Wisdom, the Martin tradition. She balling out of control, but that's not it. Wisdom, you had you know, again, you speak to your kids. Almost we're doing daddy brag moments before.
Well, my oldest daughter, Anaya, 18, she's at Tuskegee University down in Alabama. She's back now for the summer. So she was on an academic scholarship, which is amazing in itself. So I'm like, hallelujah. That's why I can go buy me another car, because I don't have to spend that money on that. So go waste some more. But she's on an academic scholarship at Tuskegee, and I'm so proud. I don't tell her that because I don't want to get the big head, because she's already got the big head. Because she got that from her mama, by the way, not from me.
I'm sure you had nothing to do with that, Wisdom.
So look, she walked on the basketball team. She's like, I'm going to play basketball. She walked on the basketball team, got through the first year. So it was a tough year, because when she got to college, you know, they practice like when you're even at Tuskegee, which is it's Division II, but it's real. I mean, practice at 5 o'clock in the morning from fall all the way through basketball season, and then another practice at night. So that's a lot. That's a lot. So the good part is she got through the season. She made it through all that. She was only late once. And she's still on scholarship. So proud of that. And then my son is going to the 10th grade, playing at Clarksburg High School. And then my baby girl, gymnastics, basketball, and volleyball. So she's 13. So, man, we're running up here in the suburbs, in the sticks. So I'm proud.
Save your money. Save your money. It sounds like a lot of one-on-one workouts. Sounds like a lot of travel time. Brother, I know it.
Training, travel games. It is,
And the part that's great, I was just watching, and of course, you know, everybody know. See, y'all know, but everybody knows about my kids. Instagram and Allison is popping, so everybody feels like they know everything. And again, but what a joy, though, you know. What you call this? Dr. Judge Mathis show just launched on television, and it just felt good, because those of us who happen to be African American dads. It was just good to see a grown-ass man dealing with his kids and his grandkids, you know, because, and we all know a brother like Judge Mathis in our families. It might be your uncle, it might be your daddy, you know what I'm saying? And it was just refreshing, because that same thing that makes you, I think, love Judge Mathis, there's a certain, when he either goes off on somebody or connects emotionally, we see it on the court. It's the same thing that in his family, he was talking to his son who happens to be gay, and his son, and it was funny because he got emotional. And I think, again, America has not really seen grown black men get emotional.
Right.
But when his son said to him that he basically has lied because he didn't want the ridicule at work and didn't want this and that, and then Judge Mathis got emotional about it, I was thinking, you know what? This is great, because I think a lot of times we feel like, and you know, Wisdom, you're in media, Lucy, well, we all are really, and you know how it is. We see this propaganda all the time. Right. But to see a brother from Detroit, grown grandfather, get a tear in his eye, realizing the life that his son has to live because of who he is. I thought it was special because you just really don't see that. Or you see, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not, I'm not dragging anybody else, but you know what I'm saying? You don't really see a genuine reaction from,
you see
if you looked at if you looked at what they have as imaged as, Judge Mathis would be too hard to get emotional about something like that. And then also would give a long speech about how he don't believe in it, blah, 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 blah. So it was refreshing. So I'm saying all that to say, just like we're doing right now, we're three guys who love being dads and understand the moment. We understand our job, Bootsy, and Bootsy's taking on all other kids, is to what? Give them everything they need to live the life that they desire. That doesn't get shown a lot. Like right now, Allison is doing Wisdom. I know you've been in this space before, and it's hilarious because you know better not to say nothing. Allison is going down Sydney's apartment, and she's got to get some end tables and some rugs and some lamps. She is going. Her car, her SV, her vehicle, her big vehicle, she can't take because it got a leak. So she got to take the little car. Right. She's asked me about U-Haul because she got to get these rugs and these end tables, and these lamps for Sydney's apartment. And Sydney's not there.
Wow. Okay.
So, as you know, Wisdom. My initial comment would be one thing, but after 22 years of marriage, Allison is off, y'all. She's going down to get her baby moved in.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Now, did Sydney ask for some end tables? Probably not. Do we ever ask for end tables? But Mama doing what she do.
That's right.
Because that's what her parents did, and that's what she gonna do.
Right.
But again, this is stuff that you don't see on television, though. It's great. You know, it's like, yeah, baby. Now, Allison, well, tell me about U-Haul. Now, in my mind, okay, you're going to get a U-Haul.
Right.
For some rugs and some end tables and some lamps.
Exactly. No, I understand you, Mark. I see where you're going. Because in our mind, it's like, so the practical thing is, so we're going to do all this, and we're going to spend all this money to do this. And in our mind, it just does not add up. But you better not say anything if you want peace and quiet. You just be like, okay, all right, okay, good plan.
Yeah. U-Haul, U-Haul, yeah, go right ahead, ahead.
Right, good plan, okay.
But again, this is stuff again that you don't see on television. So I'm saying all that to say, hey, the Judge Mathis thing. I'm like, okay, that's a good look, and I think Wisdom. You went to an HBCU and you're from the South.
Right.
My friend has just moved to Atlanta, and he's in a neighborhood where he's the only one who's not a millionaire.
Okay.
And it's a group of like thinking people.
Right.
And so Wisdom, the part that I'm excited about, sometimes you feel like we're not making any progress.
Right.
And you almost feel like knowing what we know, the system. Oh, there's a reason why. Now, there's a reason.
Yeah.
The system has it set up a certain way.
Oh,
but the more everybody sees us in a different light, a Judge Mathis with his family and his grandkids, and people work together.
Right.
Or we went to HBCU together, or you're my neighbor and I vibe with you.
Right.
So, I'm not going to go all the way in, but my friend they're all entrepreneurs. So that conversation when we're just chilling, I'm at Wisdom's beautiful house on acres, and Wisdom leans over to me and says, hey, Mark, if you need some help on Marc Clarke Media, I got you. That's the progress, because there was a system that just tore that apart, because we always, we know in our conversations, we can't work together. We can't. Well, yeah, it's hard to work together, but there are groups that are working together.
Right.
In certain places. Atlanta's really popping like that, where and it's not a thing where I'm coming over and I'm pitching Wisdom.
Right.
Wisdom's get the grill and I'm like, hey man, I got a great idea. No, it's not that. It's basically he's seeing what we're doing. He likes what we're doing. And he's saying, yeah, Mark, I'll come on the show.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, Mark, yeah, you need some help with this, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, Bootsy, you got a media program. And shout out to you, Wisdom. Bootsy already has said, Wisdom Martin's name, many people he's asked, but one of the names that he can count on is Wisdom Martin. Yeah, Bootsy, I will talk to your class, or I will do this.
It's crazy because Wisdom Martin is the only person that I did not have a real personal relationship to say, hey, anytime you need me, just call me, I'll be there. Like Wisdom is the only person that I did not know, you know what I mean? I was like, oh, I love this. He was one of the people that actually validated to let me know that the program was going to be a success because he had broke down where this was going to lead me. So I always have appreciated him big time. And that's why my program is going to be full stock and barrel supporting this book, as he already knows. And the order is going in tomorrow morning. So believe that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Well, both of you guys. And Mark, what you said, and Bootsy with your program at Deanwood, Mark, what you said is amazing because we don't see that out in masses. We don't see what we're talking about right now out in masses. What we see is all the negative stuff. And then you hear people talking, they're like, oh my gosh, this, and oh my gosh, that with these black male adults and these black men and that. But here we are right here. And you know, all three of us know people who are doing the same thing in different areas, probably all over the country, because we're well represented in all these different areas. Because I know people personally, relatives, and I know other people who are doing the same thing. They're connecting, even in this market, Mark and Bootsy, in this market, when new reporters come in, especially black reporters who need to get their footing and don't know the area, and they don't know how DC and Prince George's County and Virginia and parts of Maryland work. You feel a connection to them. Now, whether they reciprocate, that's on them. But I always make it my business, like you guys said, make it my business when I see them to go up them and say, hey, here's who I am. You know, here's my number. If you need to call me, if you need to talk to me, if you don't want to talk, you can email me. But if you have any questions about the DMV, and again, I'm not from here, but if you have any questions about the DMV, about the media in this area, about how things work here, call me, email me. I'm available anytime because I know the challenges that we all face. It's hard enough in general, right, coming in. But I know the challenges we face as black men and black women in the media coming in, trying to navigate these waters and trying to be successful. As you, like Mark, when you said it, the rules were not set up in our favor. So when we do succeed, we need to be celebrated and we need to be recognized, and people need to see, oh, okay, they're succeeding. They are working together. They can do this, and we can help each other. And there's room for everybody. It's not what do they call them, crabs in the barrel, where everybody's climbing on. No, it's not like that at all.
Wisdom, what has it been like for you since you've been here for 20 years? What is it like being a black African-American male reporter in 2022 than it was when you first got here? Because the city has changed so much, the politics have changed so much. I would love to know from your perspective, what has been the biggest change on being a black reporter and how you were able to report on black issues?
Right. The biggest change has been social media. Since I got here, I believe it was 2003. You know, social media was a thing, but not really. It was just like that was in the background. It was like, okay, here's this thing called Twitter, and here's this thing called Instagram, and all these other things. But they were in the background. Then so you had to do the actual legwork. You had the internet, so you had to do legwork, and you had to connect with people and the council members and the police officers that you were trying to connect with to get information. Then the internet comes along, and that was a game changer. Not the internet, but the social media comes along, and that's a game changer. Instagram, Twitter, it just exploded. Facebook exploded and then went away. Now Facebook is like for old people like us. But Twitter, Instagram, and even what's the new one where everybody dance? TikTok. Yeah. All of that stuff changed the game because now the younger generation is bringing it up, and the media is trying to figure out, well, how can we capitalize on all of that, all of those internet? Nobody's been able to figure it out yet because the problem with social media is I could be in Canada watching Fox 5 or any station here in Washington, D.C., and it's good on social media, but you don't get credit for it when it comes to those Nielsen ratings. And therein lies the problem, because back in when I first got here, it was just, okay, Nielsen ratings, here they are. We got to figure out how to get these numbers up. And now it's Nielsen ratings. We got to figure out how to get the numbers up. And we got to figure out how to get social media to transition into TV so we can get even bigger numbers. So that's the biggest change and the biggest challenge right there.
Wow.
And so I'm sorry, before we hop into the book, Wisdom, something I just wanted to run past you guys.
Yeah.
Because I think I mentioned earlier looking at the system.
Mm-hmm.
And so Monique was right. So Monique, as a black woman, a black person and a woman, when she came after Netflix and expressed that she was unfairly treated,
right.
I think there's a lesson in this, in that many women and many black folks criticized her. And not only they attacked her. Who are you to ask for this much? You ain't that hot. You ain't relevant. You ain't this. You ain't that. The irony of it is, and Wisdom, we see this with sports fans all the time.
Yeah.
When an artist, when an athlete is fighting for their rights, they're fighting for your rights.
Right.
You're not ownership. You are the people.
Yeah.
You are the talent.
Right.
And so many times, I wish he shut up. He makes enough money. That's you. You're doing that to yourself. It's your job. You're getting paid unfairly because, like the comedian said, if you signed $1 million check, they're making $1 billion off of you. Right. So now Monique, all of us have egg on our face. I don't know. I don't know why she's complaining. I wish she would $50 million. Right. So for those who don't know, she won her suit against Netflix. They gave her the money. Now, in Wisdom, just like in sports, why did they settle? Because they don't want you to look at the books. If we go to trial, you're gonna see that some no-name ass comedian that has no followers, like she said, black folks must have forgot too. She had a TV show. Most of the big comedians that are even out right now did not have a TV show on the level of Monique. Chappelle didn't. Right. He did later on because of she was the precursor. She was the one that laid the foundation. But everybody got amnesia about that. Right. So she was basically saying, with my with what I'm offering, with my resume, this is some BS. Right. And they paid her off because they didn't want you to see that no-name white comedian got multiple millions of dollars. It wasn't based on anything we was talking about in the barbershop and in the beauty shop and our personal opinions. I never thought she was funny, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. And so we do this all the time. We don't even, and Wisdom, you covered sports. People do it all the time. Yeah. Like Lamar Jackson, like right now, why he don't have an agent? You don't realize Lamar Jackson, by not having an agent, it's changing the game. Right. And he's about to land the big, because they paid you, but the Browns just paid your boy, which that was ridiculous. But by doing that gave him leverage, even more leverage. Yeah. And it's crazy. You mentioned how this works in sports, because you will see in sports, especially in the criticism is across the board. They're like, oh my gosh, why would you pay, Shaq or LeBron or Kobe? Why did they get all this money? Well, like you said, Mark, if I'm giving Shaq to $150 million, guess how much the owner is making? In order for him to be able to pay Shaq a guaranteed, whatever it is, whatever Shaq made when he was playing, $100 million contract, the owner has got to be balling out of control, because he's not losing money. And we see the Denver Broncos just sold for, I don't know, some billion, $4 billion or something like that. And they're not even a storied franchise. It's not like they got a wall full of Super Bowls up there. I mean, they're the Denver Broncos. So imagine how much money these franchises are pulling in when you're talking about TV contracts and revenue sharing and the advertisement that they control. And then they go get you, the city, to build them a stadium for free. And then they get all the revenue. Most of them do. Not Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones built his own because he's smart. Unfortunately, I know a lot of people don't like him. Jerry Jones is smart. He's like, I'm building my own stadium. I'm controlling my own money. I'm marketing my own thing. I'm keeping all this. Right. All this. But yeah, they go and do this, and the guy in LA did the same thing because he's followed Jerry Jones's lead. But most of these places, you build us a stadium, we're going to control the stadium, we're going to get all the money from it, and we're going to pay minimal taxes, if any. It is, and meanwhile, we're billionaires. But you, in the city, taxpayers, you guys build us $1 billion stadium,
so we can thrive and make even more money. And nobody says a word. But as soon as an athlete gets 50, 60 million dollars, everybody, oh my gosh, how could he? No, that's probably not even how much they're really worth. Because I remember one time, who was that? Oh, Master P. Master P was saying when he first started out, and I think it was Jimmy Iovine offered him $1 million or something like that. And he was like, he was smart enough to know because he had done some research. He was like, well, if Jimmy Iovine has offered me $1 million, then I know there's more out there. So I'm going to pass. And he was right. He was absolutely right. And now look at me. I know Master P's doing a whole bunch of different things now. But you're right. I never understood why people get mad. Well, I do understand why people get mad when athletes make all this money, because it's based on how much money is in the pot. Nobody gets mad when Tom Cruise makes a whole bunch of money for Top Gun or what's the Mission Impossible, which I love, by the way. I love Mission Impossible. I love them all. But nobody gets mad when they pay them 50, 60 million to do a movie. Nobody says a word. They just go pay for the ticket, which is too much. $20 to watch a movie. Come on. So yeah, nobody says a word about that. But these athletes, they get raked over the coals every time. They hold out, or they say, okay, what you're paying me now is not enough. I want more.
And speaking of sports, go ahead, Bootsy.
No, I would love to know before we get into the book, and I noticed that, obviously it's on a black quarterback line. I would love to know what prediction do you have on how this Deshaun Watson thing is going to handle out? Because there's a lot of guaranteed money. Man, it's like 8 different angles where people get caught up. How do you think this is going to turn out?
You know what? That's a good question, because here's what I don't understand about the Deshaun Watson situation. So all of these claims are against him. All of these allegations and things are coming at it. So he didn't play last year with Houston, so they didn't let him play at all. Then he gets traded this year to Cleveland, and then he gets paid, but it's still, all this stuff is still unresolved. So my only thing is, well, what is the NFL doing? Because they usually are heavy-handed on things like this. They didn't. I don't think they suspended him. I think Houston just didn't let him play last year because they were
because remember, he said he wanted to trade. He was never going to play there again.
Right.
People speculate that's where all this stuff started coming out, because he was like, I'm never going to play there again.
Right.
So it does, because that part of the story is not getting told no more. The fact that he refused to play, and then the owner who once said, we can't let the prisoners run the prison.
Right. Yep.
Let's not forget he actually said that. So,
so
you could tell it's a dynamic there, but
So now he's in Cleveland. So they made a deal, but again, and they gave him some more money. But I'm like, so he's not suspended by the NFL, but the investigation is still going on. So is he going to play this year? Bootsy, honestly, I don't know what's going on with this. I have no clue, because the NFL normally, as I said, they jump in and they're like, okay, well, you're suspended until further notice, or whatever they do. And then they're silent on this. So do they know something that we don't know? I mean, do they?
I'm going to tell you what the game changer is. I don't know if you saw it. Do you watch Real Sports with Brian Gump?
I used to, but I don't have HBO because I'm too cheap to pay for it.
But he's sitting on acres, though.
So the new Real Sports that came out 2 weeks ago, they got 12 of his victims in there.
Mm-hmm.
At first, I was thinking, until you guys charge me, I'm a black man. I'm going to be innocent until proven guilty. Like, you don't have to take me to court. But when you saw some of the victims on there, I'm like, ooh, I don't know how this is going to turn out for him. But he still has not been charged yet. So I'm wondering, you know what I mean? It's this lingo of, because now it's up to 66 women.
Right.
Like, literally, I'm just interested because he has $214 million contract.
Yeah.
I mean, $214 million. And they're banking their franchise on there. They're telling Baker, I still don't know how this is going to end for Cleveland.
Yeah. And the thing is, so why did the owner do this? Because you got to know what's going on. Let me be clear. I don't know what the deal is with Deshaun Watson and all these women. We just know that there are a bunch of women that have come forward and said he did all these different things, these inappropriate things. So I'm not saying he's guilty. I'm not saying he's not guilty. But what I am saying is Cleveland made a deal for a guy who faced all these charges in Houston. Drama in Houston. They brought him over and then gave him some money. So are you not doing your homework? Are you connected with the NFL to where they're saying, hey, just relax, we're going to take care of this? Is there going to be a settlement? Is this going to go away? I don't know, because it's just bizarre that Cleveland would make this deal based on the fact that all of these women have come forward and said these different things. He hasn't been charged, but now he's in Cleveland, and you give him an extension on top of that. So is he going to play this year with all this stuff looming over him, even though he didn't play last year with all the stuff looming over him in Houston? Baker Mayfield's still there. He doesn't want to be there because you traded for Deshaun Watson. So it just seems to me like a whole bunch of mess. And Bootsy, to be honest with you, I have no idea.
It sounds very Cleveland-like. It sounds very Cleveland-like.
Yeah.
Well, we're getting ready to get into the book. Now we're on the, Juneteenth. In fact, I'm hosting a Juneteenth event this afternoon. And Alex and I, we were talking about, we all know the history of Juneteenth.
Right.
And what I said earlier, I think, as we get older and you start looking at the system, you start to really see, like, you know how you go, like, America always talks about entrepreneurism, and talks about business,
right?
But it doesn't teach business,
right?
And so people, well, why? Well, why don't they teach? And I think wisdom, I believe that, well, because when you apply business principles, if we all in school understand how business works, really, like, we were all masters of business by the time we got out of high school. You then understand the relationship that the United States has with, first, the Native Americans. You basically you overthrew, you did a hostile takeover of America. Right. And then you had free labor for 400 years.
A 400-year head start.
And then wisdom from Mississippi. When you look at Reconstruction, look at the formula.
Right.
Your whole labor force, your skilled, unpaid labor force.
Sounds like college football.
is now free to do what they do. And
sounds
so
like college basketball.
And within months, years, that skilled labor force was making moves, baby. They were about to overrun this joint. Why? Because they were skilled labor.
Right.
And for the first time, they were incentivized by getting paid. So they were like, yo, whoa, pump your brakes. If we keep this up, in 50 years, it's a wrap. So then you start, right? And the biggest player, when you start talking about, so then, this driven force that you never planned on them having rights or anything, they start, and that's our grandparents. They always talk about the greatest generation. No, our grandparents, that was the greatest generation, because they had to prove to the world who we are. So they were pushing education. They were pushing hard work. Ain't nobody gonna outwork a former slave. I mean, we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And so then they have to start imaging things. And so let's take that up with the book. Was that why can't Black people be quarterbacks? Why was it so important for them not to let us like Bootsy said? Well, if we let them play quarterback, they're gonna beat all the quarterback, like what's happening now. And so, wisdom, what made you write this book? What made you? I mean, you covered sports for a long time. What made you write this book? Ironically, like you said, you covered McNair, who was one of the greatest quarterbacks. And again, that came from almost like not wanting them to play quarterback.
Right. Yeah, because initially when he was being recruited in high school, Southern Miss wanted him to play defensive back. Now here you have this superstar that was a quarterback in high school, Mount Olive, I think that's where it was, or Mount Bayou, one of those down in Mississippi. He was a superstar, and he was a dual athlete because he played baseball as well. So here he is, a superstar, and Southern Miss recruited him, but they were like, oh, well, we want you to play defensive back. And he was like, nope, I'm going to Alcorn. That's how he ended up at Alcorn State. By the way, Southern Miss back in the day also is the same school who didn't want Walter Payton. They went out to recruit another guy down in Walter Payton's high school, a wide receiver, but and specifically because Walter Payton was a black player, they didn't want him. they were going after the other players. So they didn't want Walter. They didn't even recruit Walter Payton. So that's a whole other story. He ended up at Jackson State, thank God. So thank you, Southern Miss, for that. But the whole thing, the reason I started writing this is when I was a kid, at one point in the 70s, Doug Williams was with Tampa Bay, Vince Evans was with Chicago, and James Harris at this point was on the bench with the LA Rams and eventually the Chargers. That was it. 3 guys out of the entire league. And at the time, everybody had 3 quarterbacks. So my father was talking to me, and he would always say, this is a problem, in so many words. He would say, look at this. You have all these quarterbacks in the NFL, and 3 of them are black. And then one of them's on the bench. Doug Williams is on thin ice, and Vince Evans was already, as soon as Mike Ditka got there, he had already predetermined before Vince Evans threw a pass that he was gone. And then he brought in Jim McMahon, who was very average, by the way. And was on a great team.
And Warren Moon was in Canada, right?
And Warren Moon was in Canada winning. He won 5 straight championships. Warren Moon led his team to the Rose Bowl in 77 at University of Washington. They upset Michigan. Rose Bowl MVP with a wide open offense throwing, and Warren Moon wasn't that fast, but he was a great passer. They completely ignored this guy. The only team that called him, I think, was the Raiders. And I don't know what happened with that, but Warren Moon ended up in Canada with the Edmonton Oilers, 5 straight championships, 5 MVPs, and then the NFL comes calling in the mid '80s, and the Houston Oilers gave them a big contract, and the reaction to Warren Moon getting that contract, because at the time he was one of the highest paid one of the highest paid in NFL. The reaction from the fans and the media over that was insane. Warren Moon talked about all the hate mail that he was getting, and how dare they pay this N-word, this amount of money to win 5 games on a horrible team, by the way. So that's what got the ball rolling on this. So you had Doug Williams, who was doing this thing in Tampa Bay, and they just disrespected him all the way around. Vince Evans, who got run out.
To the NFC Championship, I may add, for Tampa
Bay. Which one, Doug Williams?
Yes.
Yeah, they went to the NFC Championship. So, and James Harris actually led the Rams to James Harris, first black quarterback to play in the Pro Bowl. First one to make it to the Pro Bowl. The next year is when they got to the NFC Championship and lost to Minnesota, who went on to lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers. But the whole thing was like, and my dad would talk to me while we're watching the games and say, look at how these guys are playing, and listen to what the commentators are saying about them. And then it started to register. Doug Williams throws a pass. If the receiver doesn't catch it, then it was a bad pass, a bad decision. If, Danny White for the Dallas Cowboys throws the same kind of pass, then it's the receiver's fault. Or there's no mention of the bad passes or the interceptions. Wow. So I started to paying attention to these things, and I started keeping notes and started writing down all these things, going even in college the same way. And the next thing you know, notes and notes and notes. And I started calling around and talking to people, and they start telling me their stories. And then 20-some years later, this book finally comes out.
So hold on. So you kept notes for 20-some years.
Oh my gosh.
Just for no reason.
For at the time, like I said, I was just because my dad was talking about this stuff. So I was like, let me just pay attention to this. Started with college, watching college games. Because remember back when I was coming up, it really wasn't the internet didn't exist. So I mean, it existed, but everybody didn't have it. So I'm in there taking notes. I'd watch games on Saturdays, college games on Saturdays. This guy plays for this school, okay. And then I'd start writing them down and just keep these notes. I had notebooks everywhere. And then on Sundays in the pros, it was a short notebook because there were no black quarterbacks except for the ones I mentioned. And then Warren Moon came in. So I kept all these notes, started looking at where they're from. And then the further we get along into this, the internet. So now I can Google and find all this information about them. I already knew where they went to school, call the public information office at the school, at the colleges, and tell them what I was trying to do, get them on the phone. And surprisingly, every one of them called me back. Every one of them called me back on the phone. This is landline at the time. Called me back. And we did, I recorded it on my little tape recorder and then start transcribing and then start putting things in, tried to do it in chronological order. And then that's how this book came to be, finally, after all that time.
Oh,
Wow.
this is a must-have book, Bootsy. My
Wow.
goodness, I didn't know all this. I thought it was, Wisdom Martin, great-looking guy, needed to put a product together. He kind of liked sports. He just wrote something down and put it together.
Yeah.
Bootsy, this is a must-have for the collection.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna buy Wisdom. I'm not only buying my own, I'm buying them for my family because this is a must-have. And the fact that we know Wisdom, that's crazy.
Yeah. And here's the thing: all the people that are in the book. These are some fascinating stories. Think about this. George Taylor, I interviewed him on the phone. He played from 1949 to 1955. And he said he had some stories about what they told him about this position is for not for you, for your people, basically. Not for your people. This is our position. This is a position of leadership. And then I talked to Marlon Briscoe. He had a similar story. I talked to a guy named J.J. Jones who started a Monday Night Football game in place of Joe Namath in 1975 because Joe Namath missed curfew. So J.J. Jones had to start that game. And they all said the same thing. Doug, Cordell Stewart, all of them said the same thing, that basically the ones that did get a chance to play, you were on a short leash immediately. By the time you get out there, Donald McNabb once said, if you're a black quarterback, you have to be great every single play. Whereas other quarterbacks, you're going to get developed. You can be a Peyton Manning and throw a record number of interceptions in your first year. Nobody bats an eye. And all these other people that throw all these, Eli Manning, horrible first couple of years, and then he eventually wins the Super Bowl. But how many black quarterbacks get a chance to throw all those interceptions? I'll give you one right off the top of my head. Jameis Winston threw for a record number of yards in Tampa Bay, but he also had a bunch of interceptions. And the narrative on him was, oh, well, he makes bad decisions. He can't read defenses. All right, well, that narrative doesn't happen for other guys, for the white quarterbacks who throw interceptions as well. Brett Favre, for all the glitz and glamour that comes along with Brett Favre, interception king. I watched a game where Brett Favre threw 6 interceptions and didn't even get pulled. Ty Detmer for Detroit was ahead. Charlie Batch had been starting. The coach benched Charlie Batch, goes with Ty Detmer. Ty Detmer comes out. He throws 6 interceptions. The coach never even looked at Charlie Batch. And of course they lost the game. But there was never any question. Do you think, in fact, I know, there's not a black quarterback in the universe who could throw 4 interceptions and not get benched. Every quarterback, Warren Moon, in his heyday, he would have a bad stretch because all quarterbacks have bad stretch. And the coach is like, oh, we need to bench and reset. Same thing with McNabb. We need to bench and reset. And the media plays a part in this too, because these commentators, they see these players out there and they're like, oh, well, they need to go in another direction because he's not getting it done after 1 week of football or 2 bad passes. So it just, the narrative that has been created that blacks cannot be leaders, the blacks are not capable of leading their football teams to championships. That's a narrative that was created from ownership to management, general managers, to the coaching staff, to the media. They all created this narrative that says, okay, you can have a black quarterback, but the window, you got a short period of time, and you better not mess up or you're out of here.
So Wisdom, this is the thing that's interesting too. It's like you said, the media picks and chooses who they want to make our heroes and how they want to cast you. And it's interesting. They do it, they do it to white players too. Let's keep it real. Yeah. But then there's moments though when like when you look at a Terry Bradshaw. Growing up, I was a huge Pittsburgh Steelers fan. So of course, the quarterback, the black quarterback, was he the first? No,
Joe Gilliam for the Steelers. Yeah. He was the first to start a regular season game.
Right.
First black quarterback to start a regular season game with the Pittsburgh Steelers before Terry Bradshaw. This was before Terry Bradshaw. I believe Terry was on the bench at the time. And the thing with Joe Gilliam is that year, the year that he got benched, the Steelers started out, I believe they were 4-2. And then they lost another game. Gilliam had a bad game.
Yes.
And it was history after that. Then Terry Bradshaw takes over and the rest is history.
And Wisdom, you're from the South. This is so funny. This came up in our discussion with Elvis. Me and Allison do this radio show. And, she was trying to say, I'm trying to get to the bottom of, was he a racist or not? Was he good? And I said, he's from the South. He's a white guy from the South. And at the time, it's like Terry Bradshaw. Now, Terry is Mr. Fun, Mr. Liberal, Mr. Loving. But Terry Bradshaw, in addition to, he was They called him a stupid Southern.
They did.
And there's some who say Bradshaw, I think he's from Louisiana.
Yeah, he is.
He wasn't necessarily super kind to Joe Gillum, I understand, or frustrated that he wasn't starting. So Wisdom, number one, that whole Southern thing, when people want to know, it's kind of like a part of the culture, right? I mean, if we keep it real, if you have a tape, anybody from that generation, especially white people, based on just how it is, probably said nigga and probably did some things they're not proud of, but was a part of the landscape back then.
It's a whole different ball game, but when you go further down below the Mason-Dixon line. I'll tell you a quick story. One of the stories that I covered when I was down in Jackson, Mississippi before I left was the trial of the guy, Byron Della Beckwith, who murdered Medgar Evers back in the 60s. Medgar Evers was shot in his driveway in Jackson, Mississippi, right? For no other reason as to he was a black NAACP leader. That's the reason he was shot. So they never convicted anybody for that crime. So eventually, I believe this was 92 or 93. This is right around the time when they finally got him back in a courtroom. So I was there for that trial. So leading up to the trial, they had done interviews, and again, this is 1992, 93. Wow. They had done interviews with the number one station down there was WLBT. So they had done all these interviews with Beckwith and his family. And the things that he was saying in 1992 and 1993 were the same things that they were saying in his 60s. He was dropping the N-word like crazy, and this is on TV. In front of cameras. He was with his son. He was teaching his son the same thing. And he was with his grandson. So he's teaching all of those people the exact same mentality that he had back when Medgar Evers was shot. He eventually got convicted of killing Medgar Evers, by the way. He was convicted in that trial. I was in the courtroom when it happened. And it was amazing because of what the family had gone through. All of the things they had gone through with this case being unsolved. And then finally in 1992, 93 is when he finally got convicted for killing Medgar Evers. No remorse, claims he didn't do it. No remorse, still dropping the N-bomb all over the place. So that just speaks to, and that, again, this is 1992 and 93 when that mindset is going on. And then you see some of the things that go on in the South right now, and you're like, yeah, it's
same thing.
Yeah, the mindset, and make no mistake about it. I'm not talking about everybody across the board. Just like we don't talk about all black people being bad all across the board. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying to you is, as you know, when you go down south, you run into that mindset. In fact, I had some cousins up here a couple of weeks ago, and they were telling me about how they were at a rest stop. This is right after Deion Sanders got a first big recruit we had for this year. I can't remember which one. Not the receiver. Maybe the receiver. The
cornerback receiver. The cornerback receiver.
Travis Hunter, I think that. Yeah, this is when he got Travis Hunter, and they were at a restaurant, and they had Jackson State gear on, and they said a couple of white guys were coming out of the restaurant and saw the Jackson State gear and were and out loud. Now they're minding their own business, going about their business, and these white guys see the Jackson State gear. I don't know why Travis Hunter would go to that little old school. He ain't gonna do nothing there. But you see what I'm saying? The mindset. Nobody's talking to you about football. They're walking to their car. All they're doing is wearing Jackson State gear. Mm-hmm. And that infuriates you enough to the point where you say, this one recruit, I don't know why he's going to that school.
Wisdom, what was your thoughts on Nick Saban speaking about Jackson State and the number one? I would love to know, as a proud Jackson State alum, what was your assessment of that?
Well, to me, Nick Saban he's nervous, number one. Now, I don't know why he decided to go at Jackson State because, number one, Jackson State's a smaller school. We don't play them. We'll never play them. It's not even on the same level as Alabama because Jackson State gets, Travis Hunter and a couple other transfers. Alabama's 6 deep, All-Americans at every position, all right? So he just casually throws this out there at his alumni, and then he mentions his real threat, Texas A&M, the guy who used to work with him when he was at LSU, who says he knows where all the skeletons are buried. So that to me is a bigger picture. So Nick better be careful when he's out there, shooting his mouth off, talking about all these different schools, because you'd be surprised as if when you start digging into other people's business, what's going on in your closet and in your past, 6 deep at every position. I don't know. There may be, you just be careful. And to me, that spoke volumes as to who Nick Saban is. He may be great at coaching and finding whatever, but for him to be concerned about little old Jackson State, that's how you know we're making some noise. Because if he's concerned about Jackson State, we're on the right path. We're definitely on the right path. Now, and Texas A&M must be closing the gap because they got a big recruiting class coming in. So clearly, he's nervous and scared.
Yeah, and the other thing about Texas A&M is they got unlimited funds on how they do it through a military, government, school, or whatever. Their resources is more tied to the state,
right?
Alabama being a private institution, which he's basically calling out saying, "Hey, y'all see I'm in trouble over here, right? Like, hey, boosters at Alabama, they just got the number one recruit in Jackson State. Come on, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
He was calling out to say, hey, I'm getting whooped over here right now. And y'all better help me out because this ride about to be over if it ain't."
Right.
Well, it's kind of like what happened with Kanye. Kanye's crazy rant about the fashion industry is kind of like Nick Saban's realizing that now if I'm a all-American athlete, I no longer have to hop on the gravy train of the D1 superpowers.
Right.
I can hop on my own train. I can be Wisdom Martin, get signed by Under Armour.
Right.
Wisdom Martin to get signed. You know what I mean? I can cut my own deal.
Right.
And the more that kids start doing that, now, first of all, when LeBron went with his black friends and dropped his Jewish agent, that caused the ripple. Because my friend calls it, most of the time they need us to be the eyes and the ears of black people. So what happened was when that happened, like you said, Wisdom, in our generation, you got a Jewish agent because of the connections. You say, Jewish agent got all the connections. So now they're like, we need to get somebody that they relate to because that doesn't work anymore. Like our generation, we're cool with that. Now you got to have somebody. So Jay-Z got benefited because they just linked with Jay-Z to be the eyes and the ears of the Negroes. So then when you started, LeBron's conglomerate now becomes the thing everybody wants. It creates a whole situation. So now it's the same thing with these athletes, what Deion's doing with the athletes. Like he can come and say, look, Wisdom, I'm the best that ever did it at defensive back. So you're gonna learn from me. I'm gonna get you an endorsement deal from whatever company you want it from.
Yep.
And we're gonna win a championship. So now they're like, oh Lord, what are we gonna do? So it's definitely changing the game because these kids don't give a damn about what we used to care about. You know what I mean? They want to be, they're more entrepreneurial. Right. They're looking at rappers and athletes, and they want their own clothing brand, and so it's really causing ripple. So Wisdom, you kind of like the beauty of it is like what we just learned, it makes this book even more valuable. Shout out to Troy Johnson, by the way, who's working in Mississippi as we speak as a news anchor. My man, Troy Johnson. So Wisdom, you're bringing what the past with real interviews with real people who were there.
Yep.
And you are also still very relevant and a voice of what's going on now. So we're witnessing, like you said. So what's the change with Wisdom with now they're saying almost like, okay, blacks can play quarterback. It's kind of the same model. I think, it's still kind of the athletic quarterback. I guess Mahomes is more of a drop back, make it happen kind of Ben Roethlisberger type. So what's the future looking like? And what do you think, what has the NFL said? Obviously, you can be black and play quarterback, but it still feels like there's a but.
There's always a but. Now, I will say this because I've talked to some of the current guys, whereas in the past, you either had to go to Canada or you had to switch positions. Brian Mitchell talked about he voluntarily switched positions because he just felt like he was so much of an athlete that would be his path. He's in the book too, but he talks about this issue and he says that now with the guys being bigger and faster on defense, you need somebody to move around. But to me, that's been the case for a while. But now it just seems that some of these coaches are trying to embrace this even more. Because let's be real, this RPO or run pass option, that's the same thing they were doing back in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, and they turned a blind eye to it. And one of the issues is some of these coaches in the NFL, which is another issue about the black coaches not getting hired, they don't need to be in the NFL because all they do is do the same old thing over and over again, and they get the same old results over and over again. Innovative coaches, and I'm going to shout out Andy Reid here because of, he actually embraced for a while, he embraced Jonathan McNabb and his skills. And now he was able to move around, and then now he's embracing. Mahomes is not a runner, but he moves around a little bit more. And Harbaugh up in Baltimore embracing Lamar Jackson and his skills, his skill set. He didn't bring Lamar Jackson in there and say, okay, Lamar Jackson, what you're going to do is you're going to be like Tom Brady and Drew Bledsoe in the past and all these other guys. No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create something specifically for your skill set, and it will work. And you still have people to this day, and I know people who are like, oh, well, they're not going to win with Lamar because he gets hurt. Well, Ben Roethlisberger got hurt and missed an entire season, and he can move, but he's not a runner. I recall Tom Brady tore up his knee and missed an entire season. Tom Brady ain't running nowhere except for to the bank, okay?
How about it?
Quarterbacks get hurt. People in football get hit. How about that? So when you start talking about, well, these black quarterbacks, they can't make it because they're going to get hurt. Well, a lot of quarterbacks get hurt in the NFL. That's just the way it is because you're getting hit. So that's not rocket science. So we can't just say because he's black and because he runs around a little bit, he's going to get hurt and you have no chance of winning. Nowadays, you do have more black quarterbacks because the coordinators are more open-minded. They're younger. They're more innovative. They don't have those old hang-ups like some of these old guys did back in the day when they were like, well, I want my quarterback to look a certain way, and I want him to the face of the team has to look like this. So that, from that aspect, you do have, Damon Craig talked about this. He was one of the quarterbacks who played at Auburn and played a little while in the NFL. He was saying, at least now you got a shot at getting on a team. You got a shot at being drafted. Wow. So you at least, now you have an opportunity because back in the day, your phone wasn't ringing. Your phone, Willie Totten, who played with Jerry Rice, threw for all those yards. Innovative and creative back in the mid 80s. Jerry Rice, they loved Jerry Rice, actually questioned whether Mississippi Valley knew how to keep stats when it came to Willie Totten because his stats were so incredible. And they didn't draft him. He ended up having to go to Canada and do some other things. So like Damian Craig said, at least now you will get drafted or you will end up on a roster. And there are a lot that are on a roster now. Steve McNair, when he was in Nashville, Tennessee, the year they went to the Super Bowl and had the Super Bowl run, he missed a couple of games. Neil O'Donnell came in and had some success. Boy, they lit up the radio. I'll never forget, I was watching the national broadcast, and I'm not going to call any names, but some of those national broadcasters who were still on TV were saying, Neil O'Donnell is a better quarterback than Steve McNair. I don't know why Steve McNair is still starting. Neil O'Donnell can get them to the Super Bowl. And Jeff Fisher stuck with his guy at the time, Steve McNair, and they ended up going to the Super Bowl. Now, he didn't win, but can you imagine back in the day, Steve McNair probably would have gotten a hook back in the 70s. Right. There's no way he would have survived that because they on the radio and on TV, national and local, in Nashville, Tennessee, they were wearing McNair out. He can't read defenses. He's over. I mean, they acted like this guy had no business being in the NFL, and that was current times. So again, it's good that we are getting these opportunities and we are making progress, but there's still a long way to go.
Let me ask you this question, Wisdom. I know you've done a lot of research, and I'm gonna ask you this media question. Mm-hmm. I got two questions, but out of your travels and doing research, what is the toughest media market to be a black quarterback in your opinion?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Snap. Every episode, Bootsy gets. That's a good question. The streak continues.
It's interesting because quarterback friendly, Washington, Washington.
Hold on. In your opinion,
okay, the toughest.
Washington is Washington is one of the toughest.
No. Quarterback friendly.
Friendly.
For whatever reason, giving them an opportunity. How about that?
Okay.
As far as giving them an opportunity. So we'll go with that. Now, is the succession part, that's a whole nother. But Washington's a different animal in its own. So that I would think that the toughest would probably be New York, because they have for some reason they've had a hard time finding black quarterbacks to start on a regular basis. So New York would be a hard market. I was trying to think of somewhere else. Probably San Francisco. I mean, they have Trey Lance now, but San Francisco would be another hard market to start in. But the thing is, Green Bay, obviously Green Bay, because we see what's going on up there now with Aaron Rodgers. And you ain't got enough time for me to bash Aaron Rodgers, but I'm gonna leave that alone. But Jordan Love, they drafted Jordan Love, and then Aaron Rodgers decided he wants to play forever now. Even though he has only one Super Bowl ring in his entire career, and everybody keeps hollering about how he's such a great MVP. He keeps getting an MVP every single year. He's got 3 MVPs, 1 Super Bowl ring in 10, 12 years. I don't understand that, but okay. Green Bay is a hard market as well, and I would say Cincinnati is a hard market. So New York, Cincinnati, Green Bay, and probably San Francisco, and I'm going to say LA as well. LA is a hard market as well, because to me, the LA market is completely different, because they used to be in St. Louis, and now they're back in the LA. It's different because the weather. I'm going to say the weather is so great in LA, and life is so good in LA that football is like on the back burner. You know what I'm saying? They love the Lakers when the Lakers are winning, so everybody goes to the games. And as long as the Rams are winning, they'll go to the games. But otherwise, the LA market is tough, because a lot of people are like, it's the Rams. We're going to the beach. We're going to the beach.
So my other question would be is, what story in your book that you researched, because you've been doing this since college, what story moved and connected with you the most? Which story just moved you? And I had no idea about your father putting this idea in your head, and you have to commit this to your father. What story moved and connected with you the most out of all the quarterbacks you researched, that you could tell he's still holding on to these issues that he felt trying to be an athlete?
The Willie Totten story that I just told you about from Mississippi Valley, because when Willie Totten was playing, again, this was revolutionary at the time in Mississippi Valley with Jerry Rice. That team that they had, that was one of the best college football teams at the time. That was a 2-year run where they had this. It was a run and shoot offense, like on steroids.
They called it the air raid. That's what they called it.
And it was just up and down the field. They were scoring all these points, all these touchdowns on everybody. Willie Totten was amazing to me. And when I talked to him, because to me, in my mind, I'm watching Willie Totten throw the ball to Jerry Rice. I know they love Jerry Rice, and they loved the running. There was a running back they had. He wasn't that great, but they kind of liked him. But in my mind, I was like, there's no way they're going to ignore Willie Totten with all these stats and all these touchdowns and these small amount of interceptions, massive amount of touchdowns, and all these yards for 2 years. There's no way they can ignore this. And they did. They did. And when I talked to him about it, he said he'll never understand it to this day how he never got a shot. He said that they came to him and said, is something wrong with your knee? And he was like, where did that come from? I had a physical before. Now it's my knee. And he never understood why he was so successful in college, and he never got a real chance in the pros. He ended up, again, having to go to Canada. They questioned the stats. I told you how they questioned the stats about, this can't be right. What do you mean this can't be right? Jerry Rice, Jerry Rice caught all these passes, and you drafted him. But how can the guy who was throwing in the ball, how can his stats be off? So to me, that stuck out in my mind. And there's one more, Don McPherson, who went to Syracuse. This was before McNabb. Don McPherson. Yeah. I talked to him, and he not only did they discount what he had done in Syracuse, turn that whole program around, he had better stats than most of I think only one quarterback had better stats than him. He beat out Troy Aikman on every statistical category. And then Troy Aikman gets to go to the Hall of Fame, and McPherson, afterthought, 6th-round draft pick, he goes to the pros, and he's a backup. And I believe it was he won. I can't remember whether it was Philly or Houston. I think it was Houston, where Philly. He was on the bench.
It was Philly. It was Philly.
But he got traded. He
Okay.
got traded in just a throwaway trade, and they brought in another guy who was not as good as he was. And then he told his coach, he said to himself, the moment that they give that guy more snaps in training and in practice than me, I'm done. Because there's no way that guy's better than me. No chance that he's better than me. And he said, sure enough, he gets traded over there, and they bring in this other guy, and the coach at the time throws this other guy out there, and he told me he threw his stuff and said, I'm done. And he left, and he ended up playing in Canada. Now he's a professor up in New York and an author as well. But that spoke volumes. So those two stories stuck out to me because here again, you had these great black quarterbacks who played in college. I mean, they were phenomenal. And then when it comes time to go to the pros, we're going to take the guy who played a couple of snaps at whatever school, and he's going to have a 10-year career. You're going to be buried on the bench, and you're going to be gone in 2 years.
And you know, the thing, and I don't know, we're going to let you go, Wisdom. The thing that even today, like, I think with race, the sad part is your own bias, your own bias when you're an announcer, it's a setup, and I think when you talk about race, most of the times people don't even realize, what they do.
Right.
And they don't have to.
Right.
If you were, but if you happen to be black and an announcer, you're very conscious of it.
Right.
Again, shout out to you, Wisdom. You do an amazing job of dealing with what you have to deal with and knowing what you know in your job. I mean, your wisdom, you're authentic, you're you. And it's hard to be that. You see the games that people play. So like, for instance, one to me, this a glaring example is Jalen Hurts in Philadelphia, right? Now, if and you guys may or may not know this, but agree or disagree. If he's a white guy playing quarterback in the NFL, whose dad was a coach.
Oh my goodness.
How many times do we hear about his knowledge of the game, his competitive fire, the influence of his dad? Right. I don't think I've ever heard them say that.
I don't think now that you mention it, I don't think I have either. And that's a very good point as well, because what you were talking about is the narrative that they create with, okay, this guy is smart. The white quarterbacks are smart. Yes. They're cerebral. The black quarterbacks, athletic. And they don't work as hard because they were born natural. They're naturally born athletes.
Right. Well, here's the other part about Jalen Hurts. And it's funny because Jalen Hurts, something else that they don't talk about. That again, if he's a white quarterback, like you said, they'll say he's athletic. But what they don't say, Jalen Hurts can like squat 600 pounds. He's a monster in the weight room.
Right.
But again, coach's son, monster in weight room, around football since he was 3 years old. When he was in like middle school, he was so competitive with the college kids. He actually beat them in exercises. They would be talking, oh my God, every time he would make a pass, they talk about how he knows his game, right? But instead, they don't say much about that, and they question if he can make it, because let me tell you something. Success or not, there's no question that he knows defenses. He's been around it his whole life.
Yeah.
So if he doesn't succeed, it's not because he does not smart enough to read defenses.
Right.
But they don't ever mention that. But like you say, and so it just happens. And I don't think they're even conscious of it. I just think, and I think we do the same thing. A lot of times, even I think you can test yourself. When you see a kid with a hairstyle or looks a certain way, you automatically project on who he is and have no idea. Like again, when Jalen had that big ass hair thing that your man had with the Titans.
Yeah.
Remember? They used to irritate me.
Yeah.
But little did I know, I didn't know who he was. I thought he was a pretty boy. Oh, he's a pretty boy in my mind. No, this dude is a beast in the weight room. He's like, just like the running back for the Titans,
Yeah.
Yeah. And so we all are victims of the system,
Yeah.
We all start asking ourselves, well, I don't know, like you said, is he going to get the game? Man, please. These people, they give, like you said, chances and chances and chances. Who just retired, who was in DC, got injured.
Alex Smith?
well, not no the one with the beard.
Oh, Ryan Fitzpatrick.
My God, Ryan Fitzpatrick. He played on everybody's team. He got a million chances, and it's just crazy. But so Wisdom, how can we get
hold on. Let me tell you a fun thing about Ryan Fitzpatrick. The media this year let him off the hook. Nobody talks about that he got hurt 2 days before the first game, sliding down this water park in his backyard drinking beer, and he hurt his hip. Hold on, the video's out there and everything. The media never covered that. If that would have been Dwayne Haskins or RG3, if they were in their backyard drinking beer, sliding down, hurting their hip, and go to a game, you would have heard about that one.
No, absolutely. That would have been major headline. Yeah.
Ryan Fitzpatrick got off the hook. He got away with that one.
Yeah.
So Wisdom, when can we see you to get a book signing? When can we buy? Where can we buy the book? Tell us everything.
Okay, you can buy the book everywhere where books are sold. It can be on Amazon.com, Barnes and Nobles, anywhere where they sell books. You can order it. And also book signings. I'm going to have a book signing in DC. We're still working out the details. It's going to be over at Mahogany Books. I'll let you know the date because we're still working it out. But I do have another book signing that's coming up in New Orleans at Essence Fest, July 2nd. That's a Saturday. So the Saturday of Essence Fest. So we'll see how that goes.
It's going to go great.
Wait a minute.
It's going to go great.
It's going to go. You're Wisdom Martin, man. And Wisdom, if you want to solidify that crowd, just play Frankie Beverly and Maze and do the slide at the end of the book signing.
Look, I'll be sliding Frankie Beverly and Maze in for 2 hours if that's what it takes.
Oh, no. That's all it takes there. And the other thing is, you'll be doing one at Deanwood this summer with my students. We're really excited about it. We are super excited about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't wait to get there. I love your students over at Deanwood.
Also,
appreciate it, Bootsy.
Also, we got to do one Wisdom wherever you are and have Delicious Beverage come out, and we'll broadcast live and give away free Delicious Beverage tea and lemonade at the book signing.
Yes, sir, because that Marc Clarke lemonade, woo, boy, that's some good. Bootsy, have you ever had that?
I've heard so many stories, Wisdom, but unfortunately, I'm on the low totem pole getting paid at Marc Clarke
showed up at my house with that. Woo! I almost took the whole thing and said, nobody else gets this but me. I'm telling you, it's like that. And I don't even know what's in it. But it's woo. Matter of fact, Mark, you got to bring that again. I just thought about that.
Wisdom, I understand is at the estate, there's a soiree coming up. So yeah, man. Wisdom, again, let me just tell everybody, I think Wisdom, just like Allison, he is who you thought he is. He is who you think he is.
100%.
And in a game, in the television game, which Wisdom, I don't know if you got the good news, but I've signed a contract, Wisdom, my full-time television guy. I haven't announced where, but it's coming.
Oh!
I start on June 27th. Is that crazy? Look at God, right?
Won't he do it?
Hey, Bootsy, Wisdom was tired of me coming to his house with no job, bringing snacks, hoping that his sister would lighten the load. He was like, man, I need to get a damn job.
Stop it. And look, you got one.
Right. All right, Wisdom, man. Love you, man. Hug your family for us. Happy. Yes.
Wisdom, before you go,
yes.
Thank you for your support of Deanwood through the years. And be clear, it is no accident that people connect and resonate with you. Before I actually met you, I already felt like I met you and I already knew you. You are amazing on TV, and I love the way that you're allowed to be able to speak for people who don't normally get a voice in these platforms. Your perspective is not always told on these platforms. The everyday non-lavish housewives going, I love your perspective, and I don't think it's no accident that people respond and connect with you this way, and you're so deserving of it. But I appreciate your humility as well, bro. Thank you as always, because I'm definitely the little guy around here, and it says a lot when you literally say, hey, man, take my number and call me whenever you need me. We appreciate you at Deanwood as well. And also, my supervisor, Lou Hall, who is our boss for DPR, goes to your church. He tells me the same thing about how humble and loving you are, and when y'all talk or whatever. So just thank you for being the amazing, humble, Black, intelligent, articulate, family-oriented voice on these platforms, because as we see, That is not happening all the time. So
well, thank you.
And
Thank you.
I don't know if-
I want to say thank you to both of you guys. You're doing amazing things as well, and I appreciate you guys thinking I'm important enough to even talk to. So I thank you. I thank you, and I look forward to see you at Deanwood, and I look forward to seeing you. Oh, I can't wait, Mark. I can't wait. It just went from this kind of lemonade to big glass of lemonade. I might have to get a champagne glass, even though I don't even drink. I got a champagne glass.
Awesome. Thanks, Wisdom. All right, everyone. We will see you. We will see you. Thank you so much. We can look at us, Bootsy. We got big numbers. We can get Wisdom on more.
Go get Wisdom book. It's available right now. Get his book.
Keep in mind, I'm an artist, and I'm sensitive about my book.
You know, I love the fact, Bootsy, that Wisdom's book could not be some BS. It had to be deep. I love it, Wisdom. Go ahead, play. You're winning all the games. You're winning all the games.